with the entry, with the intervention of the high official from Ukraine, from our ministry. Once again, thank you so much for being here. It is a topic about Ukraine, about children suffering from the war, and about the water security and the hope for the future of our present and future generations. So thank you so much once again, and we are about to start in 1 minute. So, good morning, everyone. It is a great pleasure to see all of you here at our event. You know the topic of this event. It is very special. And it is also special because today we celebrate the World Children's Day. Yesterday, it was the 1000th day of the full-scale invasion of Russia in Ukraine. It is the 10th year of the Russian aggression in Ukraine and the 10th year of how children and youth in Ukraine suffer from the detrimental consequences of this aggression. We would like to show you this slide and to ask you, what do you see on this slide? Maybe some fashionable shades like burgundy red or olive green? Okay, but next slide. What do you hear? Another yellow or ebony black? Maybe. But these are the colors that Ukrainian children and youth see every time. It is, next slide, please. It is either the river in which they used to swim being children, or it is the water source they cannot drink because the water in that is not even drinkable. We will present you now our creative campaign, next slide, which is called This is not the fashionable shade, but the color of the Ukrainian river water. We will tell you about the stories of the young, inspiring children and youth, which amid the war do more than could ever imagine. But next slide. But we would like first to introduce ourselves. My name is Vlad. I'm 19 years old. I'm the law student at Kyiv-Mohyla Academy, and as you can see, the youth advisor of the UNICEF Ukraine. Currently, I work in the NGO helping to investigate and prosecute war crimes in Ukraine. And my colleague Anna.
Yeah, my name is Anna. I'm also UNICEF Ukraine Youth Advisor, and I'm also studying international relations, and I'm head of Ukrainian NGO Academy of Youth Diplomacy, United Youth. But before we start,
we would like to give the special intervention for the person from the Profile Ministry of Environmental Protection. This person is responsible for the European integration, the path that Ukraine is struggling to join since 2014, and without which we could not join the European Union and could not exercise freedom and democracy. Special invitation to Olga Yukhimchuk, Deputy Minister of Environmental Protection and Natural Resources of Ukraine of European integration.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for invitation. And I believe it's very symbolic that today we're here having this nice event with our youth, as today is the 35th anniversary of the Convention on the Rights of Youth. And I believe this is very important for our youth, but not only ours, but around the world, around the globe. And what I would want to say is that on our path to the European integration and our steps to become part of the European family, we understand we're fighting for our future, and our future is our children. So without their participation, without their input into what is going to be in the future, it makes no sense to build anything until we have this future together with us on this path. It is important for us to hear the voice of the youth as we are now planning on updating our NDCs. We do set the targets, but that again makes no sense if we don't hear the youth that will live in the world that we are building for future. So we have in the UNICEF our youth council, and the kids are there, and this is very important for us that this council works. And we also recently have established within our ministry a youth platform where we want to see young people, active people on climate. And it would be very valuable and useful for us to hear the young voice and to build the world for you. So everything that we do, we build for our children. I'm as a young mother of a one-year child. For me, it is very sensitive and very personal. So I believe that we will together with the youth build the good world with the European integration and with the climate green country that we have. And peace for all of us. I hope that the horrible situation in Ukraine will end at the soonest, and our youth will have the potential to develop, to live, to conquer the world, and to be in a peaceful world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Olga Yukhimchuk. We wish you good luck in today's negotiations and in your job, for Ukraine and for building Ukraine greener and better.
The next slide, we will show you this video, but first, I would like to take a small introduction that today we face a crisis that threatens not only our health, but the future of our entire country, and access to clean, safe water in Ukraine is becoming increasingly uncertain. War, climate change, and environmental pollution are not just isolated challenges. They have turned into a multifaceted catastrophe affecting every aspect of our life. Unfortunately, children and youth are the most vulnerable to these threats. In 2024, approximately 9.6 million Ukrainians are living without stable access to the water. And you can imagine that these are not just numbers. These are our friends and neighbors whose basic needs are unmet. And our country needs to restore water supply system, not just to provide access to the water. We are talking about rebuilding the foundation for health, development, and a happy life for every Ukrainian. Now let's watch the video that certainly demonstrates this. Every day we witness this problem. We lose something greater than water. We lose our future. We can come to the next slide, and that I would like to start from the such statement that water is life, but in Ukraine it has become a symbol of instability. Just imagine that in 2019, due to unsafe water and poor sanitation, the country lost over 10,151 health life years. And of these, 2,232 years belong to children under 5. These are not just statistics. They represent lost childhood dreams, disrupted beginning of life, and healthy development that could have formed the foundation of our nation's future. Today, our water resources have suffered catastrophic losses. The total damage to water infrastructure that estimate at nearly $4 billion, and a key system, water treatment facilities, sewage networks, and drinking water supply system have been severely affected. Restoring them requires more than $11 billion. But the consequence of these disruptions go far away only financial losses. They are already impacting health, education, and perspectives of young Ukrainians. When water supply system fail, you know that it means more disease, lost educational opportunities, and even threats to life itself. The loss of even one young life due to unsafe water or poor sanitation is a tragedy not for one family, it's a tragedy for entire country. And each loss represents a missing contribution to our shared future. Despite all these challenges, the Ukrainian youth has really enormous potential for action. We can and must be drivers of changes. Our goal is not only to restore that has destroyed, but also to create a new system that will withstand the changes of war, climate change, and environmental threats. This is not just a fight to restore access to water. It is a fight for our right to health future and for the opportunity to grow, learn, and dream. We can and must prove that even in the most challenging circumstances, we can protect the life, rights, and dignity of every Ukrainian.
And these are not just pure slogans. Next slide, please. These are not just the commitments. These are the real actions and the real efforts that Ukrainian youth do in times of war. Young people all over Ukraine are coming together in these difficult times to tackle the environmental issues, the consequences of war. In 2024, the third year of the war escalation in Ukraine, around 700 of Ukrainian young teams of the Upshift program participated within this framework of UNICEF. And these 700 of Ukrainian youth teams, so like 700 multiply 6, you can imagine this number, they committed to create and implement the initiatives and the projects that helped more than 30,000 of their citizens in their local communities. In Ukraine, when drones are flying above the head, when the ballistic missiles are hitting schools, kindergartens, the biggest, for example, hospital for cancer disease children in Europe, in these times, Ukrainian youth still creates, for example, the environmental short stories about environment, or the hygiene chatbot, or clean the rivers themselves. And these are not just, you know, they not only speak about it, but they do and show example for the world how to do it. Next slide, please.
Сьогодні будемо прибирати першу частину узбережжя нашої річки.
Це зона цієї набережної під дерев'яним мостом. І якщо встигнемо, ще по той бік моста. Тут у нас є перчатки, сміттєві мішки, усе потрібне.
Прийде якийсь дощ, і все воно буде плавати вздовж берегів нашої річки. Річка важлива для нашого міста, адже з неї робиться і водозабір для нашого міста з населенням у 250 тисяч осіб, і для такого великого міста, як Умань.
Ми ходили до дамби, і там дійсно було багато мертвої риби. І це прям для мене було шоком. Трохи образливо виходить, що в нас є річка, інколи є бажання навіть купатися, але можливості немає. Зараз усе на часі, адже життя продовжується, і якщо ми не будемо вирішувати це зараз, потім це може бути неможливо вирішити зараз, це зробити набагато легше.
Є два джерела забруднення нашої річки: побутові відходи і забруднення від наших великих підприємств. Нам допомагає міська рада, обласна рада, і разом з підприємствами у нас вже планується встановлення очисних систем.
Мені дуже сподобалося цей раз. Тільки дізнаюся, то буду долучатися.
You know, this campaign is very heartwarming for me because our campaign consists of four main rivers in Ukraine, which were contaminated due to the ongoing war. And I have on my t-shirt the beautiful Dniester River, which is unfortunately contaminated due to the explosions and to the rockets and the chemicals in that. And also my colleague has Dnipro River, the biggest river in the Ukraine, one of the biggest in Europe, which also suffered due to Russia destroying the Kakhovka Dam, one of the biggest dams in Europe, which supplied with water the biggest in Europe nuclear power plant. And these rivers are not just, you know, like the water arteries, the sources of water. These rivers are my childhood because I live in Kiev since my birth, and Dnipro is the integral part of Kiev, and Dniester, it's the river where my father has grown up and where my childhood in the southern part of Ukraine was spent. But we as the youth advisors of the UNICEF Ukraine also try to impact the policy making. This year, we organized our first ever local conference of youth, the conference that gathered around 150 young people and amplified the voices of more than 5,000 of young people participated in the National Green Skills Poll. This wasn't easy for us. I really confess, because the 2 days in which we organized our offline event, it was a tragedy for Kiev, for Ukraine, because it was the massive attack on Kiev the night before. And can you imagine the night when the residual complex in Kiev has been hit by a ballistic missile, when 2 3-year-old children died, the young people still gather to discuss the pressing issues, the issue of the loss and damage, the issue of the climate justice and human rights, the issue of the adaptation, mitigation, climate finance. We even have discussed with the experts how we as youth can help the environmental monitoring in the war zones, and also how we can empower our youth. This conference was not just, you know, like another check off, but it was the manifesto with the living document that we have adopted and submitted to the Yango under UNFCCC into our ministry, the National Youth and Children Statement. This National Youth and Children Statement on climate and environment, you can see, you can scan the QR code, you can read this beautiful 19 pages document that we wrote by ourselves, by these people who contributed to the development of the youth climate movement. And it wasn't easy, and it was really struggling because we gathered in the bomb shelters. We went back and forth to the shelter in the complex where we organized, but we did it. And we want to continue this as the world approaches its NDC 3.0 deadline for this NDC submission. We urge not only the world, but also Ukraine to implement the youth and children related and to include these provisions in our NDCs, because it is not only about the future. We always hear that we are the future, but please remember we are the present, and we are this driving engine of the youth movement in Ukraine. But next slide, please. We cannot achieve this by ourselves, even if we want, even if we can, because we cannot, we don't have enough tools for that, finance, funds, etc. We have to unite our efforts. Not only private sectors, not only academia, not only the youth, but also first and foremost our government. So it is my pleasure, next slide please, to invite and to give the floor to Deputy Minister of Environmental Protection and Natural Resources of Ukraine for the Q&A session, Ms. Victoria Kireva. Big round of applause, please. So just before we start, we would like to clarify on the procedure. We would be also translating this because Victoria Kireva will speak in Ukrainian, so it's not a big deal for us. But what is a big deal, that you will also have the opportunity to ask the question to the Deputy Minister. We will have now 3 questions from us, also some questions from the Ukrainian youth that we gathered by the U-Report platform, and then Q&A from the audience, okay? So, would you like... Okay, so direct to questions. Ms. Victoria, at COP28 last year, the water security emerged as a critical factor in the climate resilience. How is Ukraine incorporating water protection and management into its new NDC and national plans?
Вітаю всіх, дякую за запитання. Насправді, на сьогодні водна політика є одна із пріоритетніших для України.
Good afternoon, everyone. To be honest, water policy and water management is one of the crucial and fundamental policies in Ukraine.
Наша міністерка Світлана Васильівна Гринчук зазначає, що саме це є пріоритетом роботи нашого міністерства.
Our Minister of Environmental Protection, Her Excellency Svetlana Hrinchuk, emphasizes that the water policy is the key for the policy of Ukraine.
В зв'язку з терором, який був минулому році на Каховській ГЕС, на сьогодні біля 1 мільйона людей потребують у питній воді в Україні.
Due to the terror that Russia has done by destructing Kakhovka Dam, more than 1 million of people do not have access to the safe water, and it is needed to be changed.
Такі регіони, як Дніпропетровськ, Херсон, Миколаїв, вони вже на сьогодні розуміють, що їм потрібно змінювати свої підходи до адаптації до зміни клімату, до впровадження сільського господарства, до впровадження інших сфер промисловості.
Such southern regions as Dnipropetrovsk region, Mykolaiv region, the Zaporizhia region, they indeed now face the problem that they need to change the policies of the adaptation, mitigation, not only of the water management, but also on the approaches to the agriculture in these regions.
Тому, розробляючи нашу політику, оновлюючи NDC, ми в першу чергу розглядаємо адаптаційні заходи.
Thus, by drafting our NDCs, we first and foremost put an emphasis on the adaptation and mitigation processes in Ukraine.
Відновлення річок, відновлення озер. Також вивчаємо питання щодо повернення до природного середовища, тобто це відновлення наших боліт.
We also care about revitalization of the rivers. We also take care about the swamps that is necessary in times of war. So yeah, our efforts also are about the adaptation, mitigation of these water objects too.
Також другий пріоритет наш при розробці – це впровадження новітніх заходів саме в управління водними ресурсами.
The second priority is also making changes in the process of water management and the management of water resources.
На чому ми будуємо нашу стратегію управління водними ресурсами, якими займається наше державне водне агентство.
That is why we already have implemented changes to the main policy framework, to the water plan that the ministry is the headline in this process.
Україна переходить в менеджмент саме за принципом, за басейновим принципом. І місяць назад на уряді вже були прийняті ці стратегії.
That is why we change our policy and we follow the Bassein principle, and this Bassein principle was already considered and implemented by the government lately.
Ми переходимо з радянських стереотипів на європейські.
We swift from the typical Soviet principles and vision of this policy to the European.
І наостанок хочу сказати, що в першу чергу для того, щоб вірно зробити вірно розробити NDC, нам потрібно чітко визначити моделювання, і тому саме водна політика є одним із основних елементів цього моделювання.
Water policy is crucial in drafting the NDC, because for NDC to cover all of the issues of water policy, the modeling has to be presented, and that's why the government of Ukraine also put an emphasis on the modeling of water policy management. Yeah.
Let's go to the next questions. And this year, the Ministry of Environmental Protection announced a pilot project to revitalize rivers across Ukraine, and starting with the Ros River. The Ros River revitalization project is, in fact, Ukraine's first major post-invasion river restoration initiative. What are the three biggest challenges in implementing this project, and how might its success shape future river restoration across Ukraine?
Найбільший виклик – це ми, люди.
The biggest challenge is we, people.
В першу чергу, коли ми розпочали проект по Росії, ми зіткнулися з тим, що будівництво ГЕС і перекриття русла, зміни русла – це найбільша причина, напевно, екологічного лиха в цих регіонах.
By creating this project for the Ros River revitalization, the ministry has faced the key reason for the river to be contaminated. It is because the dam was built and the flow of the river has changed, so it's anthropogenic factor for Ros to be destroyed.
І ми стикнулися з супротивом відновлення, супротивом впровадження проєктів, тому що так зручно, певному бізнесу так зручно.
But we also have faced the resistance from the people, from the businesses, from which the contamination of this river is convenient.
Але завдяки нашим громадським організаціям, завдяки нашій молоді, завдяки нашому населенню та за підтримки народних депутатів, за підтримки влади, ми рухаємо цей процес, ми боремося, ми розробляємо плани і проекти, як ми будемо це все змінювати. Якраз Рось – це пілотний проект.
But thanks to the NGOs, thanks to the civil society, thanks to the youth that also is engaged in this process, and to the parliamentaries, we have shifted this path, and we already begun, as we said, the pilot project in this matter, followed to the revitalization of the next rivers too.
І другий виклик, з яким ми зіткнулися, це забудова заплав річок. Люди будують хаотично, не розуміючи, що русло повертається, що вони втратять свої домівки, але на сьогодні це питання відкритим, і вже як уряд вони буде приймати певні дії щодо зміни цього підходу, тому що вже на сьогодні ми маємо стратегічну екологічну оцінку, яка не дозволяє таке будівництво.
But this is the problem also is the chaotic building by people, by citizens of their houses, because this chaotic, unregulated building of houses changes the flow of river, and the government has already considered and implemented the ecological factors that prohibit such chaotic buildings, which also impacts the quality and the conditions of our rivers.
Ну і останній виклик – це, напевно, фінансування, тому що для відновлення наших річок потрібно дуже великі кошти, але тут нам допомагають наші міжнародні партнери, які долучаються до наших ініціатив. І я думаю, що поступово ми цей процес зможемо змінити і зможемо зрушити з місця.
But also, one really fundamental issue is the funding, the lack of funding. The government has engaged with lots of businesses, with lots of international partners in order to get the funding, and we step by step do this, and hopefully we will receive more funds in order to revitalize our rivers. The the next question also considers environment and youth. As young environmental advocates, we see huge potential in youth-led water protection initiatives. What concrete mechanisms is your ministry creating or thinking of to support young people in water conservation projects, and how can we ensure youth policies and youth voices influence water decisions?
Ну, перший інструмент, напевно, який є він не тільки в нашій країні, це Орхуська конвенція.
The first mechanism, it is not only in Ukraine, but in other countries, it's the Aarhus Convention.
Я насправді є фокал-поінтом на сьогодні по Орхуській конвенції, і моя задача, щоб кожне рішення, яке приймало наше міністерство в екологічній політиці, проходило громадське обговорення і було опубліковане.
I'm actually the focal point of the Aarhus Convention, and I ensure, and our ministry ensures, that every decision that our ministry takes shall to be considered and to discuss with the civil society before being implemented.
Але ми чуємо молодь, і неодноразово звертали увагу, що ми приділяємо мало саме уваги в цьому напрямку. Тому на сьогодні ми оголосили про створення молодіжної ради при Міністерстві захисту довкілля, і ця рада зможе впливати на прийняття рішення.
But we know and we heard from youth itself that they are not heard, and we do our best to also like listen to their voices. That's why we have initiated the application for the first youth council by Ministry of Environmental Protection, and we hope that, yeah, big round of applause. And we hope that this instrument also may influence the policy making, considering the decision and youth voices.
В першу чергу ми бачаємо роботу – це обговорення рішень, які пропонує міністерство, а друге – це обговорення рішень, які пропонує саме молодіжна рада. Тобто молодіжна рада зможе ініціювати певні законодавчі ініціативи у зміні довкілевих політик всіх.
This is the two-step approach. First, that the youth council itself will consider and discuss the project of the ministry and give the recommendation, but also that the ministry will consider the recommendation and project led by youth.
Тому великі перспективи маємо, і також ми окремо проводимо навчання, проводимо різні конференції, де ми будемо залучати молодь більш активніше, тому що це наше майбутнє, ви наше майбутнє. Я більше скажу, рік назад я теж ще відносилася до молоді.
There is a huge potential, actually. We not only engage youth, we also educate them we will involve them, and we already do that in involvement in the conferences. And to be honest, 1 year before, I also was considered as the youth in Ukraine. Okay, that's all the questions from our side. We are really satisfied, and we thank Victoria Kireva for answering to the questions from our Youth Council. We have some questions from Ukrainian youth collected by the U report, and they are pretty tricky, I would say, but also really interesting. So first, what are the biggest environmental threats facing Ukraine in the next 10-20 years? How it could affect the health and well-being of future generations?
Найбільші загрози, які стоять не тільки перед українцями, перед всім світом, це зміна клімату.
The first and foremost challenge and threat is climate change.
Давайте поговоримо з вами по цифрам. 2023 рік літо побило всі температурні рекорди. 24 рік побило рекорди 23-го року.
Let us talk about the figures, about the numbers. 2023 has overthrown all the highest figures in terms of the temperature in the world. And 2024 has made it once again.
Що чекатиме нас в 25-му році? На сьогодні в нас зими теплі, літо жарке, вода відсутня.
What can happen in 2025? Because the winters have no snow, they are warm, and the summers are heating. We have no water in that matter.
Змінюються сфери життя, змінюються Англійська, українська. Давайте так. В зв'язку зі зміною погодою змінюються умови життя біологічних видів.
Due to the changes in the temperature, the living of the flora and fauna of our ecosystem also changes.
Ми втрачаємо велику кількість рослин, ми втрачаємо велику кількість тварин. Також в нас виникають нові хвороби, нові виклики, і ми не розуміємо, як далі розвивати цю політику.
Due to the climate change, the types, the species of both animals and plants are dying. They are extincted, and new diseases are coming to Ukraine, and we do not know how to tackle these problems now.
Також в зв'язку з війною додатково викинуто в навколишнє середовище 180 мільйонів тонн парникових газів.
Also, because of the Russian invasion in Ukraine, more than 180 million of GHG emissions were emitted in the atmosphere.
На прикладі це як викидає за рік така країна, як Бельгія.
This is, you know, the annual amount of GHG emissions that such country as Belgium emits.
Тому ми вбачаємо найбільшим викликом це саме кліматичні зміни, і для того, щоб ми могли далі проживати, далі планувати, ми повинні розробляти стратегії з адаптації. Ми повинні планувати наше майбутнє із врахуванням всіх кліматичних ризиків.
That is why the first and foremost threat is climate change. We have to adapt, we have to implement new policies on the adaptation, mitigation of our territories, of our ecosystems to survive the risks of the climate crisis.
Якщо ми не будемо змінювати, якщо весь світ не буде змінювати свої підходи до кліматичної політики, на прикладі України ми втратимо дві області, таких як Херсонська і Миколаївська, їх просто вони затопляться.
If we do not change our policies, ultimately we can lose our biggest oblasts, two regions of Ukraine, Mykolaiv and the Mykolaiv and Kherson regions, which can be basically flooded.
І вже наші діти до 2100 року не побачать ці регіони.
And our children by the 2100 year will not see these regions in no way.
Тому ми тут закликаємо, потрібно змінювати. Я саме повинна змінювати ваше покоління, тому що ви наше майбутнє, ви насправді можете зрушити це з місця, і вас буде чути весь світ.
That is why we encourage you, youth, as the people who will solve these problems, to stand up and to make change the policies, engage, because the future is in your hands.
So, and the last questions from our Ukrainian youth, and after this we will open the session from question and answer from our audience. And so, your ministry has emphasized Ukraine's commitment to green recovery. What does that mean for environmental reconstruction, restoration, and the climate resilient infrastructure?
Дякую за запитання. Можемо довго спілкуватися, але буду коротко.
Thanks for your question. We can speak in hours about this topic, but I will be as brief as I can.
Задам всьому залу питання. А які критерії зеленого відновлення?
We have the question for you, audience. Which are the criteria for the green recovery?
Для кожного зелений колір він різний. Буває світло-зелений, буває темно-зелений.
For each person, the green color can be different. It can be the bright green or the dark green.
Тому в першу чергу наше міністерство повинно зробити умови для того, щоб відновлення було зеленим.
That's why our ministry, our government shall adopt the criteria for the green recovery to be considered as such.
В першу чергу ми прийняли закон влітку цього року про впровадження найкращих доступних технологій.
We have first adopted the legislation on the implementation of new and sustainable technologies to tackle the climate change.
Тобто відбудова будь-яких підприємств або будівництво нових вже буде по новим європейським стандартам.
That is why the new restoration and reconstruction, rebuilding of Ukraine will be based only on the European new sustainable technologies.
Також ми прийняли рамковий закон про основи кліматичної політики.
We also have recently adopted the framework climate law, which also which also ensures the framework of the climate actions for Ukraine.
В якому визначені принципи, як буде розвиватися наша держава. Ну, основні, як енергоефективність, впровадження кращих технологій, бережемо ресурси.
It contains the basic principles such as the energy efficiency, the implementing best technologies and the saving of our natural resources.
І на сьогодні ми працюємо далі, і також міністерство розробляє законопроект, який буде саме встановлювати вже рамку саме зеленого відновлення.
Yeah, and our government is now drafting new law, which will implement this frame on how step by step the green recovery shall be done in Ukraine.
Але також ми працюємо з регіонами, тому що відновлення це на місцях відбувається. І вже на сьогодні в нас розроблені стратегії з адаптації до зміни клімату, саме плани заходів, які повинні бути впроваджені в цих регіонах.
Yeah, that is why we also work with the regions, because we have the decentralization in Ukraine, and for ensuring the great compliant reconstruction, we have to work with the regions, and we have adopted plans in the regions on how the adaptation and green recovery shall be done in each of the regions of Ukraine.
І ми обрали регіони, такі як Івано-Франківськ, Львівська. Там військові дії не проходять, там є тільки одиночні обстріли, але ми взяли ще область як Миколаївська.
So we have taken for this pilot project 3 regions, Ivano-Frankivsk region and Lviv region. They do not have the active battles, but they have the ballistic missiles hittings. But we also have taken the Mykolaiv region, which is nearby the front line in Ukraine.
Були підготовлені цікаві аналітичні дані. Ви з ними можете ознайомитися на нашому сайті Міністерства захисту довкілля. Воно насправді дуже цікаво, і там навіть прораховано фінансово, скільки потрібно для того, щоб регіон був кліматичний, регіон був зелений і щоб регіон був зручним для життя людей.
We have also published on our website of the ministry analytical guides. These guides are interesting, very interesting. They contain numbers specific of the funding required for the region to be both climate neutral, but also sustainable and convenient for people to live this. And you can also open these analytical guides. They are open accessed.
Хочу окремо то додати, наше громадське суспільство дуже активне в Україні і відслідковує кожен крок уряду для того, щоб прийняті всі рішення були зеленими, кліматичними і соціально відкритими.
And you know, the civil society in Ukraine is like Big Brother. It's watching you. They watch our steps, each step, and they control what we do, what we implement. So they ensure also that our policies are sustainable and clima-friendly. Yeah. That's all from the Ukrainian youth. We also would like to give the floor to the audience, especially from the foreign countries, maybe to ask some of the tackling issues on the questions you have. Does anybody in the audience have the question to our Deputy Minister? We encourage you to ask the question. Ukrainian also can ask the question. No worries.
Thank you so much for such a wonderful presentation. And I'm very happy about opening of Youth Council at Environmental Ministry. And since I've been involved in, and lots of our foreign partners have very similar structures, I was wondering what are the instruments you will have to use in order to ensure meaningful participation of youth there? Will this Youth Council have any budget as well? And how do you ensure the transparency also of election of the candidates for the future Youth Council? Thank you so much.
Let me introduce myself. I'm the voice specialist at UNICEF Ukraine. And to be frank, I would say even that we just established a partnership with the Ministry of Environment, that this is the first historical moment since Ukrainian independence. And we are very keen that the Youth Council will become an instrument which will ensure that the voices of youth and future generation are heard. And within this MOU, we have this special line related to Youth Council. At the follow-up of signing of the MOU, which was signed on the 26th of June, the minister has made a first step. The minister established the Youth Council. And we as UNICEF, we do intend to support the Youth Council functioning under the ministry just to make it real, actionable. This is the first step. Let's see. Maybe by next scope, we can tell you more on that. But the first start is the NDC. We do want to make it child sensitive to ensure that everything is in line with what we signed. Thank you.
Next question.
Hi, first of all, Slava Ukraini. I'm from Mexico. I'm a young woman from Mexico, and I'm very jealous that you guys are gonna have a youth council. We need tips for our government for that. But more than a question, I just wanted to thank you for being here, for what you're doing for youth in your country and for climate. Even though you're having a very challenging situation, I can empathize because Mexico is going through tough times right now. So I feel like we can definitely collaborate. And if civil society is with you, I just want you to know that even if maybe our government is not, is trying to be a little bit more neutral, but we know that Mexican civil society is with you and that we appreciate you and definitely look to you as an example with what you're doing with your youth.
Okay, we have also the question from the representative of Republic of Korea, and also we have the question there.
Thank you very much. I'm Hyun from Green Environment News Korea. First of all, I'd like to say thank you very much for the presentation. It means a lot to me. So so I can share this story and bring it back to my country and spread the word. I think it's very important, especially on this issue. Solidarity is key. So I have a question for you, especially on it seems like you've done a lot of collaboration with international community. What kind of assistance or further assistance do you need to increase this kind of efforts in challenging times? It could be raising awareness, it could be financial assistance. So if you can share a bit of a stories on that, it would be great. And another one is if you can share one or two success stories that you've made in the last 2-3 years in terms of water security issue. So it seems like you've done a lot. So if you can share one or two success stories, especially like you've mentioned, if you have a bit more to specify, it would be great. Thank you very much.
So I will answer the first question, and Victoria Kareva will answer the second on the key successful stories. First and foremost, I would like to emphasize that the youth society, it's more the supplement to the efforts that government does, and we are always trying to engage with government like in depth, because without the governmental support we cannot do anything. And I say that it works also in the same manner backwards, that without us we indeed collaborate. We are the Youth Council of the UNICEF Ukraine, but also we've implemented lots of projects with other organizations, for example the IOM, etc. We need everything that you mentioned. Unfortunately, the attention to Ukraine decreases, and it's obvious because people are tired of war. It's once again, it's 11th year of the Russian aggression. It's the longest war after the Second World War, and it's the 3rd year of the full-scale invasion. So basically, what we do, we use different platforms, once again, to highlight that this is a problem, that children are suffering, because children, it's a topic that bothers every single person, both mothers, fathers, grandparents, I don't know, like teachers, international community, etc. So we need awareness. We have launched the creative campaign, and we would like really beneficial to have the international partners, media, for example, to cover this campaign too, because once again, the nature is the silent victim of war, and it does not like have the enough attention in this matter. as well as children do not have. Funding too, because as Deputy Minister and the Minister has said yesterday, the Ukrainian Pavilion and the Ukraine participation now is free of cost for Ukraine. So like no money from budget of Ukraine now. It's everything from international partners. Why? Because the victory is what is now crucial. So yeah, we need international support. We need international funds, lots of funds, diversified. Next year, we will definitely organize the LCOI next iteration, LCOI 2025, to implement the NDCs that will be submitted in February. And we need more funds because UNICEF, great supporter, but we need more meaningful participation, maybe some partners and youth from different countries. We know that in Ukraine it's unsafe, but we can ensure that the participation of the youth representatives from other countries, and especially from the global majority, will be safe and secured.
Я трішки по-іншому відповім на це питання.
I will answer a little bit different to your second question.
Проекти, які відновлюють саме водні середовища, в нас є. Вони є на регіональних рівнях.
We have the projects on the revitalization, reconstruction of water resources, water project, but they are more decentralized. They are on the regions.
А на національному рівні у нас трішки інший виклик. Нам потрібно зупинити агресора, який забруднює наші водні ресурси.
But on the national governmental level, we have to stop the aggressor that pollutes despite of these projects and, contaminates the rivers in the regions.
В серпні місяці цього року на території Російської Федерації було скинути у річку забруднюючі речовини. Ми зупиняли її більше 4 тижнів. Кожний день це забруднення проходило біля 11 кілометрів.
In August this year, Russia has intentionally contaminated from its sugar factory the river in Russia, which has flown to Ukraine and contaminated the same river and the Desna River, one of the cleanest rivers in Ukraine. And it took for us 4 weeks to stop the contamination because each day it has continued, it moved further, each day 11 kilometers.
Повністю всі живі організми вмирали. І в нас було 2 виклика. Зупинити забруднення і очистити вже ту територію, по якій пройшло це забруднення.
And like there is no livable either like fish or any other animals in this river. They died. And we had 2 challenges. First, to stop this contamination. And second, after we stop this contamination, to clean what was before.
І 11 вересня це забруднення мало прийти до нашої столиці, міста Києва, і тоді ставало питання, а що буде з питною водою всієї столиці?
And at 11th of September this year, it was the question that the contamination will come to the capital of Ukraine, to the Dnipro River. And it was the hard question, what would it be to the safe water in the capital, the largest city in Ukraine?
Але рішучим діям нашої міністерки і її концептуальному підходу воно не досягло міста Києва. Ми його зупинили і насправді зараз вже відслідковуємо, моніторимо і дивимося, як відновлюються саме живі істоти в цих річках.
And with a persistent approach of our minister, with her hard but also intelligent decisions, we stop this contamination. And now we see and we help that the animals come back to this region and they restore their livable ecosystem, which was destroyed.
І тому я тут ще раз хочу зазначити, що Росія робить терористичні акти в нашій країні. Вона впроваджує екоцид. Це вперше, напевно, в історії, що країни так воюють.
And we emphasize that Russia is a terrorist state and Russia terrors the ecosystems. It is like in the past, it was no such means of warfare as it's now. The intentional ecocide and the environmental harm to the civilians in Ukraine.
Вона не хоче захопити наші території. Вона хоче знищити нас і знищити наші території повністю.
They do not want to occupy us. They want to destroy every single person in our country. They want to destroy the environment, that it would be nothing in Ukraine in the future.
Але ми вже тримаємося 1000 днів і за нами перемога.
But we stay strong for 1001 day, and the future is with us. Maybe the last question, please.
Thank you very much. Hearing your words and being in the pavilion is really inspiring. I'm from the UK. I hope that we're seen as being very good friends of Ukraine. We're very supportive of you at this awful time, and it's really inspiring to see that under the most difficult circumstances, you are putting so much work into protecting the environment, protecting Ukraine's future, and also you're driving a lot of difficult conversations in Europe. We're having really serious conversations now about sustainable kind of energy security, divesting away from states like Russia, who we were historically reliant for our energy. My question to you is, what would be your message to countries who want to support Ukraine more in this area and who maybe don't know how to get there? What would be your ask for countries like the UK to help you get there? Thank you.
В першу чергу ми хочемо сказати, що ми надійні партнери.
First, we want to highlight that we are reliable partners.
Ми не змінюємо своїм пріоритетам. Ми рухаємося до принципів Європейського Союзу, до принципів всього цивілізованого світу.
We comply with our goals, with the climate neutrality. We comply with the EU standards, with the standards and principle of the civilized society.
Тому в першу чергу, що ми хочемо сказати, що ми надійні партнери, але в нас війна і ми потребуємо допомоги.
So yeah, we are indeed reliable partners, but in times of war, we need your help, without which we will not survive.
І на сьогодні те, що ми до сих пір тримаємося, це ми дякуємо нашим партнерам, нашим друзям, які вчора були в цьому павільйоні і насправді виголошували за підтримку України.
And it is hard to believe, but we stay strong. We survive, we thrive, and we thrive because of our partners, which help us and continue to help. Yesterday, it was high-level event with officials, with the ministers from the European Union, which once again have mentioned and emphasized their support and priority for the green recovery of Ukraine and Ukraine winning in this war.
І в першу чергу ми не хочемо, щоб про нас забули. До нас звикли саме до війни в Україні.
And to be honest, we don't want it to be forgotten. We don't want that our war, the terrible times in Ukraine will be like, you know, we are used to it. It's just a regular another day, 1001 day. We do not want to be forgotten.
Тому основна підтримка – це говорити, наголошувати. І тоді почують політики, тоді почують люди, які можуть приймати вже інші рішення.
So we really encourage you to speak, because when you speak, when the civil society speaks, the government will listen to your demands, to your requests, and will implement then the policies that Ukraine needs at this time. That's all. In case you have any other questions for us as the youth representatives or to the Ukrainian delegation, you free to ask or to write to the ministry email address. They will contact you back. But as it is the creative campaign, we would like to spread this, and we would like to share with you, Deputy Minister, as a sign of solidarity and thank you for everything that you do for children, this beautiful T-shirt. Thank you, Deputy Minister. Thank you. Much for being here. Dear youth representatives, we encourage you to stay. We have some engagement with you. We also would like to share some t-shirts with to discuss how we can implement further the youth demands, and please stay with us and join our next events at the Ukrainian Pavilion too. Thank you so much. And it's over. Thank you so much. Dear youth, we wait for you there.